I don't know.
Rock
Do we need to put any Warren Buffett in this podcast? Do we need to
Why
make
on God?
homage to this man who might be dead? I don't know. I mean, the last blog post was 16 years ago.
He made a post about not finishing the project in like 2016.
So wait, hold on.
So
He stopped off in 2010, and then 6 years later, he came back to say, "I'm not doing anymore."
yeah, he came back and he was like, "Sorry, I'm not doing it." This just became another hiatus project.
How many
Um,
people you think were sitting there waiting with bated breath for 6 years for him to come out with the hot water review?
oh my God, he stopped right when Jimmy's mustache got shaved off.
Yeah,
That's crazy. I am going to talk about his review of this album. Anyway, I think we should have that brief discussion be the cold open and just leave the listeners wondering why the fuck we're talking about Warren Buffett at all for like an hour.
sure, yeah, totally.
Wasting away again, away again. Wasting away again, away again. Wasting away again, in Margaritaville. It's long downfall.
Welcome, everybody, to Dischoreography, Wasting Away 2026. We are discussing Last Mango in Paris today from 1985.
I'm Tom.
I'm Kyle. I forgot that we introduced ourselves at the beginning.
We do introduce ourselves. We're not just anonymous voices of Jimmy.
Yeah, but like,
don't
I mean, this is like episode, 17 of the podcast?
It would be a weird episode to start on, to be sure. Maybe somebody's just really curious about what people have to say about Last Mango in Paris, and that's how they find us.
I don't know. I mean, because we are getting a couple of people like showing up. Like, I see them subscribing to the Substack, people who are definitely not in our sphere of influence. We have a Substack now, by the way. We will have had a Substack for about, I don't know, 2 months by the time this announcement on the podcast goes out. But yeah, go look for that. It's been linked in all the YouTube descriptions if you're coming
Indeed, it
from
has.
YouTube.
So this album's like kind of interesting, but it's also like kind of dull. But before we get into it, we gotta talk about other stuff. Kyle, what have you been listening to this week?
Fuck you. You know what I've been listening to. It was fucking Paul Anka's Rock Swings from 2005. Literally the only other album I listened to since the
That's
last
the
recording.
only other thing you listened to since the last time we recorded?
It's been busy. Also, I mean, we haven't had a full week between recordings this time.
That's true. We recorded on Saturday last week.
Oh, actually, no. I did listen to one other album, but I'll talk about it later because it is Jimmy adjacent, not in a bad way.
I have listened to the full album. How'd you like Rock Swings?
I mean, honestly, so like, first of all, I like that. I do like just like vocal pop, big band stuff. Anyway, I showed my entire family his version of "Smells Like Teen Spirit" because I thought it was hilarious.
It's kind of just an insane album.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a couple songs on there that are okay. Like his version of Spandau Ballet's "True" is actually totally fine because "True's" a song that's written to be like a love ballad, so it fits. Black Hole Sun, that's fucking weird. So anyway, and this is related to our album this week and our album last week. I was talking about the new writing partnership that continues on this album between Jimmy Buffett, Mike Utley, and Will Jennings. There was a specific song I could not remember that I had talked about earlier that day when we recorded that Will Jennings had a hand in writing. And I couldn't remember for the life of me what song that was or why I had just been talking about it that day. Well, that song is Tears in Heaven, and the reason I know that is because it's the closing fucking track from Rock Swings.
Your life is just a spider web this week.
I know, there's so much fucking Paul Anka in my life, and I couldn't be angrier. What have you been listening to?
Well, I drove back up from California over the past week. Usually when I'm driving, that means I had a lot of free time, but I don't like to listen to music usually when I'm driving that sort of long distance because it can put me to sleep. And I went up the coast, so I drove like 18 hours. So I had to listen to a podcast most of the time. But last night I put on an album that we discussed briefly, not on the podcast, but just before recording last week, which was I threw on Marty Robbins' Gunfighter Ballads and Trail songs. While I was cooking dinner.
Nice, yeah. So quality music.
Yeah, some good country music. It was enjoyable. You know, I don't like every song on that album, but it is just an enjoyable old country album. Some good classic stuff.
This is
All
not
right.
good classic stuff this week. It hits the top 10 on the country charts. This album goes up to number 7 on the country charts. It has a top 20 hit on the country charts as well, which is his biggest country hit since Margaritaville and his second highest charting song since 1977. So that's interesting.
That's something.
Yeah.
That's something.
I want to start by saying that I had mentioned this back on when we discussed California Promises back on One Particular Harbor, but Steve Goodman dies of leukemia in September 1984. That's right around the time the last album came out. So this album contains the last Jimmy Steve co-write of their careers. And
It's also going to be the last song that Jimmy records that Steve had a hand in writing until like 2008.
does he do another Steve song?
I've read a bunch of places that he does more of Steve Goodman's work, like later in his career.
We'll see, because then those might be highlights, because I do like Steve. But
Yeah.
this album is dedicated to Steve, and I do think it's an affront to his legacy that this album, of all albums, is dedicated to him. I mean, it's not the worst album to be dedicated to him. It could be worse. It could be One Particular Harbor.
It could be much worse, but it's
Yeah.
not great.
In an interview, Jimmy had referred to this album, Last Man Go Paris, being about, quote unquote, all the living legends I've had the pleasure to know. We'll see how that stacks up when we get through the lyrics here.
I feel like that's like 3 songs on this album that could be about. Like that's
yeah, it's definitely not
really
indicative
a
of the
through line.
whole album. So, in terms of Coral Reefer Band and touring, there's no change in the touring band in '85. He's doing
There's some interesting personnel notes.
Yeah, there's some
But-
personnel notes we'll get to as we get to those songs on which they appear. In terms of the touring in 1985, there's 49 shows in 1985, so up from 40 in 84, but you know, it's still a long ways down from whatever, like 105 shows in 1974. I'd assume he probably recorded early in the year. I don't have exact dates for the recording of this album, but the album was released in July of '85, so it has to be earlier than that. And the tour started in May, so I'm assuming earlier than that as well. It was recorded at Soundstage in Nashville, and it was produced jointly by Jimmy. Ooh, awful. Oh, and actual country music producer Tony Brown. So, and also we obviously know now that Jimmy knows what a mixing board is. Hopefully,
Yeah, this is thankfully not as bad as One Particular Harbor. I would say nowhere near as bad as the production.
yeah. Well, then again, I mean, like One Particular Harbor didn't have a seasoned producer at all. This one does.
Yeah, there was
in addition
no
to Jimmy.
professionalism at all.
Yeah. So this was known as the Sleepless Nights Tour. It lasted from May to August. This is obviously, of course, a reference to Gypsies in the Palace, as this line about the order of the sleepless nights.
Yeah.
And I sent you this little like piece of tour merch. I think this is from a shirt. And the logo of the tour has like a shield on it. It's like the shield of the quote unquote like Order of the Sleepless Nights.
Yeah, it's a shield
And-
coming. The bottom is obscured by a cheeseburger. There's just a lot going on.
Yeah,
this.
so there's a number of things on this that are like very much heavy Jimmy imagery. So we can see we're getting to this point in the career where he's really like, there's a fin on it, there's a palm tree, a parrot,
There's the margarita glass and the
cheeseburger,
waves.
the margarita glass and the waves. There's a little
and then
building next to the palm tree, which I presume might say Margaritaville. But then the whole thing is quadrisected by the compass from Changes in Latitudes, Changes in Attitudes.
Yeah, it's sort of the center of the, you know, what I feel I'm going to insultingly refer to as a coat of arms.
Yeah, it's just telling that we're at that point now. We're like we are fully into Parrothead fandom, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is about the time that
the empire is
newsletter
growing.
starts, right?
Yes, the Coconut Telegraph newsletter. We'll get to that. The album hit number 53 on the Billboard 200. Hit number 7 on country. The big hit for this was If the Phone Doesn't Ring, It's Me, backed with Frank and Lola, which hit number 16 on country and 37 on adult contemporary. There was a second single in Please Bypass This Heart, back with Beyond the End. It hit number 50 country. And then the very first single from the album was Gypsies in the Palace, back with Jolly Mon Singh, and it hit number 56 country. If the Phone Doesn't Ring, It's Me, it is Jimmy's second highest charting song on country song after Margaritaville. It's his third highest charting song since 1977, including Margaritaville, which is kind of weird to think about because it's not a song that I'm sure I like. Before listening to this album the very first time, I was never aware of this song. I don't know if you were
No.
aware of this song at all, but it was a hit for Jimmy.
I've heard of it before, but I'd never like listened to it.
Right.
I've listened to several like, you know, big like playlists of his hits before, and this has never come up in it.
So there's one more thing on context. This is a big, huge going forward piece of context, which is that in February of 1985, a Jimmy affiliated group in Southern California of Parrotheads launched the Coconut Telegraph, which is a fanzine dedicated to Jimmy. It's a pretty major moment for like the consolidation of the Parrothead community and movement. They're gonna have like national. They're gonna send these out nationally. People all over the states are gonna get this magazine. People from all over the states are gonna write into it. There's gonna be articles like annual columns. The first issue ran the headline: Jimmy Buffett opens Margaritaville store. First annual Margaritaville Film Festival marks grand opening. And I'm just going to read you the first couple paragraphs of this headlining article from the newsletter because I do think it describes a lot of what we're seeing, what we'd already assumed was happening in the Parrothead community, like being confirmed. Margaritaville, a ramshackle place, a rowdy place, where for years rum running was the favorite sport. A place of pirates and parrots and hot, heady tropical days where there's always booze in the blender. Close to the edge of paradise with just a dash of reality thrown in to add flavor. Up until now, regretfully, the enticing atmosphere of Margaritaville could only be found in the lyrics of a Jimmy Buffett song. But recently, all that has changed. On January 28, 1985, Jimmy Buffett brought his song, and Margaritaville itself, to life. Both the song and the offbeat Margaritaville ambiance are now embodied in Jimmy's newly opened Margaritaville store. The store is a cheerfully shabby place with its weathered front porch, well-used rocking chair, and lobster trap display cases. The products offered for sale are a colorful melange of items necessary to live the Margaritaville lifestyle. A good margarita mix, for example. Silk screen t-shirts from Jimmy Buffett's own line. Beach towels and flip-flops, some of Jimmy's favorite books and cookbooks, fine jewelry and nautical charts. And as well as being available at the store, many of these items can be purchased by mail through the Coconut Telegraph. In Margaritaville, of course, anything is an excuse for a party, and the opening of the Margaritaville store was no exception. So, as we can see, there's like a heavy, and this was not written by Jimmy. This is written by one of the people who was putting together the magazine.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about it in a while because we really hadn't gotten to this point. But Jimmy is really good at an image, and he is cultivating that image. He's sort of struggled with that for a number of years.
Yeah, 1985 is a big year for him sort of refining that. You have this store opening up, Coconut Telegraph launches, but also, as we're going to discuss next week, probably the most important album, and maybe one of the more important albums in Jimmy's career, the compilation album Songs You Know by Heart is going to release, and that's a big deal for like sort of consolidating and forming like Parrothead culture.
I think it's telling that it's like what is being sold at this store in Key West. You know, it's not just Jimmy Buffett T-shirts and margarita mix and everything. It's literally like they're saying so, Jimmy's favorite books and cookbook. Like it is literally a store dedicated to Jimmy Buffett.
Yeah.
It is a Jimmy Buffett store, and that's weird. It's cult-like behavior.
It is,
but also it's like how many artists by 1985. How many pop culture figures by 1985 have like flagship stores that are dedicated solely to selling merchandise based on their own IP?
Yeah, that aren't just
there's like not that many. Like Jimmy is like at the forefront. Like the thing is, like Jimmy is like an excellent capitalist in terms of capitalizing on this market and his own image that he's cultivated. So
He's gonna have a lot of success with this.
definitely. But we're at that point.
Yeah, we certainly are.
One of the main features of the Coconut Telegraph was a coconut chatter column, which was written by the self-styled Margaritaville's own Rona Ferret. Rona Ferret's name only shows up in the Coconut Telegraph. I find no other information of Rona Ferret, perhaps more well known in the Parrothead community. But I did just want to point out Rona Ferret because I do feel like we've heard a lot of really fake sounding names on this podcast by people who claim to be journalists. This column is always written from a perspective of like a middle-aged lady who is madly in love with Jimmy Buffett. So I don't think it's Jimmy himself writing the column.
It'd be pretty funny if it was.
He might write
Right.
like that. Who knows? There is another article I want to bring up from this first issue of Coconut Telegraph because I think it's really telling about where we are in terms of the Parrothead community. Now, this article has no byline, but it is titled Air Margarita Deliveries Come Monday, Profile of Famed Aviator. And what this is essentially a complete like role play article about this captain who's called Captain Come Monday Harris, who's the founder and president of Air Margaritaville. And it writes, Captain Come Monday has just been awarded a major Margaritaville freight contract. He will be personally responsible for the delivery of every item ordered from the recently opened Margaritaville store. Now, that's not true. That's fake. But like people, like this takes up half a page in this like 3-page newsletter. There's a big picture that goes with it. There's a whole story that goes to this idea of there's this Key West based captain with a pontoon plane who is going to personally deliver you anything you order from the Margaritaville store. And it just gives you like this really strange look into the idea that, like, frankly, at the youngest, I'm going to be generous here, at the youngest, Jimmy's fans are like in their late 20s, right?
Yeah.
They're mostly in their 40s by now because he's very much cultivated the idea of like people that are around his age due to his like nostalgia music. We just heard it with like We Are the People our parents warned us about. We knew it way back in Pencil Thin Mustache.
Yeah.
Like these are people in their 40s living in a fantasy world about Jimmy Buffett and things like surrounding Jimmy Buffett.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really weird thing to think about because we think of like I think like in the modern sense, like we think of like role plays being like, you know, the like nerdy like D&D stuff or you know, like kinky sexual stuff, right?
Definitely.
So it's weird just think like a bunch of middle-aged, you know, middle-class Americans, white Americans, frankly, are just like all into this like role play about escapism. I think it's really important to bring up, especially as we are at, you know, the height of the Reaganite 80s here.
Yeah, definitely. I have a lot of opinions on this matter as like somebody who is kind of an amateur scholar of tabletop role-playing games and stuff like that. But the first one is like, you're not wrong, right?
Do you think people ever put together like a Parrothead D&D game?
Yeah, undeniably. Like, there are, Kyle, the tabletop role-playing games I have seen would blow your mind. I played once a tabletop role-playing game about being in a cult dedicated to reviving Carly Rae Jepsen after she was sealed away many years ago.
I was gonna say Carly Rae Jepsen is not dead.
No, but in this game, she's like a great, powerful magic creature of some kind, and so you form a cult to revive her.
Yeah.
Anyway, point is, there are RPGs about so much shit. There's 100% got to be RPGs about being like a beach bum island freak. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I you're right. That wouldn't surprise me.
No, but you're not wrong. It is like a little bit of an odd concept, for sure.
Yeah, it's just outside of the ordinary of what you would expect given that idea.
Yeah, I'd say so. I found an ad for this album in the August 16th, 1985 edition of the Gavin Report. I'm going to send it to you now. I don't really know what's going on with it, to be perfectly honest with you. Do you want to describe this for our listeners?
All right, so there is like a floral print background, almost like what you would see on like a Hawaiian shirt, and it says Jimmy Buffett, and it has 3 What are those phones?
I think they're radios.
Radios, okay. There are 3 radio, like picture of radio bullet points. The first 2 have a cross through them, like a red cross, although it's in black and white. And the first bullet point with the red cross through it says, "It seems wherever you go, you run into a closet Buffett freak." The second bullet point with the cross through it, "He has sold over 5 million records and performed in front of 7.5 million in the past 4 years." And the third bullet point, which does not have a cross through it, says, "Just imagine if he had some radio." Okay, that makes sense. His new album, Last Mango in Paris, featuring "If the Phone Doesn't Ring, It's Me." And then there is a picture of the album cover.
Yeah.
Which, folks, just in case you're not aware of what the...
reminds me of the other thing I wanted to talk about, which is the album cover.
Yeah, okay.
So the album cover for Last Mango in Paris, I'm sure many of you have seen it before because it's honestly kind of hard to forget.
And if you're watching, if you're listening on YouTube, there's a picture of it.
Yeah, it's got Jimmy. He's sitting there kind of laughing at a table. There's a woman at the table with him. What you might not notice, if you haven't looked too closely, is that there's a lot of weapons involved here. So first of all, the mango has... He's holding a knife.
Yeah.
Secondly, the mango has like a grenade pin in it.
Yep.
Thirdly, on this side, I just noticed this yesterday. The woman behind the menu is holding a gun in her left hand, like a pistol.
I don't think I ever noticed that, but so that fits with the lyrics to that song. If she's holding a pistol,
also maybe I'm wondering if she's just armed because the title of the album is a play off of the film Last Tango in Paris.
Yeah, because she probably needs to defend herself against Marlon Brando.
Yeah.
For her own safety.
Yeah, so she needs to defend herself against Marvin.
Marvin Brando, obviously. Yes. The back cover? You wanna talk about the back cover too?
The back cover is like also has weapons imagery, and it feels more militaristic.
They're standing in a red boat on a bayou.
Yeah, the woman is now wearing some sort of Rambo outfit, and she's got what looks to me like a grenade launcher.
Is that what it is? Jimmy, I thought that was like a Uzi or something. I'm not good with weapons.
It's some sort of weapon, right?
Yeah.
Jimmy is wearing a trench coat and like some sort of hat. He's got like sunglasses on. He's actively pulling the pin out of the mango.
Yeah.
Like he's gonna throw it at somebody.
It's
really weird. I don't really know what's going on with it.
Crazy. Also, I've never seen the movie Last Tango in Paris. I don't think that... Is it this militaristic, the movie?
No, it's like an erotica film. Like,
yeah, okay.
Anyway, the interior slip of the album, Jimmy's also holding a knife.
We've never gone this in depth into talking about the album artwork before, but I do feel like it's necessary because I don't think it really fits. There's like one line in Last Mango in Paris that any of this fits, and that's pretty much it.
I also just want to point out that the inner sleeve has like this picture of Jimmy. He's got sunglasses on. He's holding the knife, but it's also got like a faux medal on it. There's just a lot going on. There's just a lot of weird, like violent imagery, which would like maybe make sense if this is like a darker album. Like Jimmy's had darker albums that featured violence before. This album is not one of those, right? This doesn't have.
This doesn't strike me as a particularly violent album.
No, I'm thinking about like.
In fact, it's quite passive, actually.
I would say if there's any album that Jimmy's recorded that features violence like heavily, I would
White
say
Sport Coat.
Yeah, White Sport Coat, definitely. You know, it has a lot of scenes of crime. It's got He Went to Paris about a man going off to fight fascism. Like
it's got holding a store owner at gunpoint. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple of albums in which fights break out. This is not one of them. Really strange album materials. I don't have anything else to say about it, but I thought they warranted comment.
Yeah, let's get into the actual content of the album then. Quick note, just if I don't mention the writers of the song, you can guess that it is Jimmy, Mike Utley, and Will Jennings, because that team is the default team by now for writing songs.
There are a couple of people who have hands in other songs.
Yes.
And this first song features one of them. There's 4 songs on this album that are partially written by Marshall Chapman. who is best known as a guitarist, I think.
Yeah, so Marshall Chapman is a female singer-songwriter out of Nashville. She debuted in 1977. Her album Jaded Virgin was named Record of the Year by Stereo Review in 1978. This is the other album I listened to this week, is because I saw that and I was like, I need to go listen to this album. And it's actually pretty good. I think it's better than what Jimmy released in 1978, but that's a low bar. So she met Jimmy in Texas in 74 or 75. I think maybe it's possible she met him through Roger Bartlett, because he would have also been in the music scene down there. But ran into Jimmy again in Key West on vacation with her boyfriend in 84 or 85. And so that's how she ended up co-writing some of the songs on this album, including this one. And I assume this is probably also how Jimmy got to become aware of her song, The Perfect Partner, that he ends up recording for this album that she wrote on her own. So she actually tours as part of the Coral Reefer Band in 1987, and she was good friends with the former Coral Reefer guitarist Tim Krekel.
So although we haven't seen her yet before, she is definitely like somebody who's in Jimmy's circle.
Yeah. Also, so she has her... So she... Eventually, she will have a record or two that gets put out on Jimmy's Margaritaville record label. So she ends up as a label mate to Jimmy on his own label at some point in the 90s. So
that's kind of interesting, but how
this
do you
album,
like that song?
This album, have we mentioned? Everybody's on the Run is the name of the song.
Yeah, this is the first song.
You know, I don't dislike it. Frankly, I do think it might be his best attempt at like the post-thriller adult contemporary sound since
I think,
he tried to start doing it on One Particular Harbor.
I think this is a really fun song, honestly. I kind of dig this song. I don't think it's like one of his best, but I do think that like I heard this and I was like, that's the best song he's recorded since Somewhere Over China.
Since the album Somewhere Over China, correct? Not the song itself.
Yeah, not the song specifically, but this is the best song he's recorded since that album.
Yeah, probably, yes. I would definitely put it above everything on both of those interceding albums. Yeah. So the thing about this song is like I can immediately tell that unlike with Who's the Blonde Stranger, I had this visceral feeling of like, oh no, this is Jimmy immediately just saying, I don't know what to do. What do the Parrotheads want? Let's just write some shit about that. And this is very much the opposite effect. It makes me think, okay, there's going to be a good bit of this album that is not going to be guided by the principle, what is going to sell to my fans.
I think that is the case, but I also think that like there is like a fair amount of stuff on this album that's like
there's a fair amount of stuff on this album, and just the general idea of the song being called Everybody's on the Run, this whole like, we need to slow down, that is kind of an aspect of a lot of Jimmy's music, but I don't think it's being portrayed in the way that other songs are portraying that exact same feeling in this period that are more egregious at doing the Parrothead thing.
Yeah, I kind of like this song. I don't think it's like super great, but I think it's maybe the best song on the album. There's like one other that I think is like a real contender for that, but
yeah, it's
terrible. And listeners, if it wasn't clear, me saying that I think this might be the best song on the album doesn't bode well for the rest of the album. This album gets off on the right foot and then immediately trips. That's not necessarily.
Yeah. Do you have anything else to say, or should we move on to the trip?
We can move on.
Okay.
We can move on to the trip.
So, I mean, and I do dislike this song content-wise, and somehow I do still think it probably ends up in the stronger half of the album.
I would agree with that.
So this is Frank and Lola. It's the last Jimmy and Steve Goodman co-write. It's clearly a Jimmy-led co-write.
Yeah.
Let me tell you why. It's because of all of the foods that are mentioned in the song.
I think that's probably reasonable.
I wrote that this is an affront to Steve's legacy.
This is a song about a married couple trying to get their sex life back together.
It's not even that. It's that they go on vacation and they keep getting interrupted from trying to have sex. Yeah. Even though some of the situations are like, they went to see a movie and crowded public theater, you're not going to be having sex.
I don't know what's going on.
It doesn't have
a very good song.
It doesn't have like it's kooky in the like Morris's Nightmare Vacation pornography genre. It's not the boomer humor, I hate my wife thing. Exactly.
It's also I think not as egregious as like a Morris's Nightmare.
No, it's certainly not as egregious. But what I mean is it doesn't have any charm to it.
No, I think it doesn't. I wrote in my notes, and I think this is generous to it. It's a fine song, but I would not call it strong or good.
That's definitely generous. What I really dislike about this song, which is another reason why I can tell it's a Jimmy song rather than a Steve song, is that none of the jokes are understated. They're not subtle. It's very much just out there. Just these two are trying to have sex. And Jimmy has done better songs that are out there in terms of like being egregiously about like honestly, I would rather listen to Why Don't We Get Drunk than this song.
Yeah, I think I might as well, because I think that like it's just like,
I would rather listen to Honeydew than this song. And
I would rather listen to this than Honeydew. I didn't like Honeydew. I do think it's on the better half of this album, but I don't think it's like especially good. I don't know.
Who knows?
The only full cover I think this is on this album.
Yes, I believe so. Perfect Partner. This is the Marshall Chapman song. So I went and listened to Marshall Chapman's original version from 1981.
Okay.
This is the thing I always want to look at when I see like a woman covering a man song or a man covering a woman song is whether the pronouns are switched or not. The pronouns are not switched from the original version. This was written in a male perspective, which I do think is interesting for the Marshall Chapman cover. It's obviously
less interesting for Jimmy.
It's less interesting for Jimmy because it's Jimmy. Yeah. He would be writing from that perspective anyway.
I have a take on this song.
Okay, let's hear it.
The chorus puts me to sleep, but I think the verses and bridge are totally fine.
Yeah.
I think this is like actually kind of a good song, and then the chorus starts and I'm like, oh my god, this is so boring.
It's interesting that you say that the chorus puts you to sleep, because the chorus is the faster part of the song.
It is the faster part, but like somehow it's just like,
now here's the thing.
I just think dull.
Marshall Chapman's version is slower than Jimmy's version, and I like it better.
I think I could see that being better. Like,
so if you're more a fan of the verse than the chorus, yeah, I guess that would track. Yeah,
I'm gonna have to skip it out.
Hey, I mean,
like, it really is like
Jaded Virgin album from '78 that I went and listened to. It was pretty good.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, this is just kind of like a nice song about dancing. The chorus is really boring. This is like a song that's like, it kind of feels like it's in desperate need of a hook. Like, yeah, when I listen to the chorus. But when I listen to the verses and the bridge, it just is like, it just works. Okay. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a neutral song. It's not an AHAG for me, but it's a neutral song for me on this album.
It was close to an AHAG for me before I realized I actually liked the verses.
Yeah, I think the next song is the AHAG, really.
Really? I think there's another one that's more so, but this is a serious contender as well. The next song on the album is Please Bypass This Heart.
Yeah, and
you get it?
I do get it. The song is really fucking cheesy, and I don't think Jimmy quite grasps what a bypass operation is.
I think so. So this is like...
Can we just say, did Jimmy die of heart failure? Because it would be so ironic if he did.
No, I don't think he did. This is...
Oh, no, he died of cancer. He died of skin cancer. That's ironic in its own right.
There's stuff that's interesting about this song. This is like a really country-ass song. Jimmy's not recorded a song that's this country in a long time.
Yeah. So, I mean... That's kind of the reason I think it's an AHAG is because, like, I don't really remember it, but I just know it's like, if you think of generic country song, it's this song.
Yeah, it is kind of generic. There's two things I think that are interesting about it, which is that, like, this feels like an album that's much less about being sad about Jane.
Yeah, there is a recurring theme of moving on or trying to move on, at least.
It feels like that, and like this song isn't not about that, but like it does kind of feel like he's trying to move past it.
Yeah,
but like I don't really have anything else interesting to say about it. It's interesting for him to go into a more country direction, and I was like, oh, I hope there's more country music on this album.
It is, and we've got another.
The monkey paw curls in.
Yeah. We've got another classic Jimmy song in the vein of built around a clunky line that doesn't work.
Yeah.
On the whole, the until it is whole again. It's like, that's not how a bypass works, man.
That's not what a bypass surgery is. I don't think he knows what bypass surgery is. I don't think he asked. I think he just liked the way that it sounded.
Well, because it's a pun, right? Because you could pass by, or you could bypass. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not as egregious as Knees of My Heart. I'll give him that.
It's not that bad. It's not great, but like this is what like Bypass His Heart is like doesn't make sense, but it does at least like the words connect.
Bypass
Neither
this
my
heart
is nothing.
only makes sense if you have high cholesterol.
Yeah. Hey, Kyle. I think
What?
it's time to move on to the next song, and so I'd like to ask you a question.
I'm afraid of what the question is.
How do you feel about Glenn Frey?
Glenn Frey, I am not a fan
Glenn
of.
Frey?
Because as we've established before, the Eagles are a shit band. Now, the Eagles are a shit band because they are less than the sum of their parts. And Glenn Frey, Don Henley, Tim Schmidt, all of these guys, Joe Walsh, have done better stuff in their solo careers or careers with other bands than they have in the Eagles.
And this is one of them.
This is not one of them. I don't think Glenn Frey ever recorded the song himself, and good for him. He's an asshole. I'm glad he's dead. Honestly, like if he weren't dead, I would wish him death for having written this song.
This thing is crazy. Okay, so first of all, this song opens with a spoken word part about knights.
Oh, yeah, go on, but I do have something to say about I have an observation about this.
Well, I just wanted to say this is I've been on an Arthurian myth kick recently because I've gotten really into Arthurian knight tabletop RPG called Mythic Bastion Land. And so this really blindsided me. I was like, what the fuck is happening?
So my thing is that Jimmy's line in that opening, and some things never change, it hits like a community theater line read slightly after the mark, like he forgot the line for a second and somebody had to whisper it to him.
The timing's a little bit off.
The timing is bad.
It's also like, it really like...
And it's very monotone. It's just, and some things never change.
Some things never change. Let's go, boys. Like, do you remember when I said when we did the K-San recording and that starts and the person introduces Jimmy and he goes like, haha, yeah. And I was like, I had like a palpable sense of dread come over me.
Similar energy, yeah.
Some things never change. Let's go, boys. All right, so that's just the intro to this song.
Yeah, folks, that is just like the first 15 seconds of this song.
That's the first 15 seconds of the song. The song breaks into like a country song that's like about being in the boss's house while he's out, like watching the house, but like helping yourself to everything in it.
So it's also really weird because Jimmy's singing from the first person perspective, but he's not Jimmy, because if we want to talk about voiceovers real quick, let's skip to the end of the song.
Yeah.
Because then Jimmy says...
ends on a skit. The song ends
on a skit. Glenn Frey calls Jimmy and he's like, hey, I'm going out on tour. Who do you have to watch my house? And Jimmy says, I know these two guys who are presumably the subject of the song, who is the unnamed narrator who may or may not be Jimmy himself, and a guy Snake. And Jimmy just like, hey, yeah, I know these two guys that watch your house. Man, they're the best. Which is really weird for Jimmy to be saying, because this entire song gives you the impression that it was Jimmy and Snake being the two guys himself. So there's just like an unnamed extra person to this song who is the narrator. So
yeah, like so that. First of all, that's insane. Then the song itself is like,
I want to know if you if you noticed the same line that I did.
Probably not. Every time I try to think about the song, I just kind of there's so much. It's hard for me to focus on any one thing. What was the line you noticed?
Hell will just shoot the lock off. I do it all the time. And I wrote, Jimmy, how does that guy not notice that you're doing that all the time? Like, you're losing money on locks yourself, or this guy just keeps being like, some fucking rackins walking into my house, breaking my locks.
Some rackins
shooting them with a pistol.
Guns. Yeah, I don't...
So I really do think like the whole thing is like this is like very clearly just like a party song, and Jimmy's now pretty fully past the whole I'm done with the party because it's destroying my life and my marriage part of the 1980s. Like we're talking about him moving on. This is definitely him just ignoring that problem and saying, you know what? Jane was wrong. Party life is awesome.
The song is just so crazy. It's like the thing about it is that like musically and lyrically, the song has a lot of constituent parts that are things that I like on paper, and then you listen to it and it's just so much.
Yeah. Also, Jimmy sings really badly here.
Yeah, it's It's Jesus Christ, I don't know what to say about this thing.
So
This thing's
I
insane.
do have more things to say about the skits, because this might be the first Jimmy Buffett song to start and end on a skit. Although I know Slow Boat to China essentially had a skit that ran through the entire song, but that was a good skit. The skit at the beginning and the end of this. First of all, I can tell Jimmy's at the mixing board and not Tony Brown for this one, because the skit right up at the top, way high in the mix, skit at the end, so fucking muddled in the mix.
Yeah, this.
Like,
Oh.
but I have to think, like, Jimmy's songs having skits, especially this song, I think they say something about, like, his inability to write a story song now. Like, it's him contextualizing the song outside of the actual song lyrics. And I don't know whether that's because he's just being lazy or because he doesn't actually know how to do it anymore. Like, it's just so weird to be doing that when he's a guy who throughout the 70s, he was so good at doing story songs.
The weird thing as well is that there's a song on this album in which he kind of like recaptures that a little bit, like later on. Like,
yeah,
it's
a little bit.
It's not very good, but he does sort of get that story song kind of back in. The character portraits come back in, and it works a little bit. It's like, okay, so you do still know how to do this. You're just not. Yeah, I hate this song. The fact that like the title and central line to it contains what we now consider a slur doesn't help. The song was built to give me a headache, and it did give me a headache like 2 or 3 hours ago when I was trying to finalize my feelings on it.
Yeah, I don't actually know if I've been as angry about a song that Jimmy wrote in quite a while, because I'm thinking back to, like, I was pretty negative about a lot of songs on one particular harbor, but I really did think it boiled down mostly to pitying Jimmy because he's such a fucking sad sack.
Made me mad. I would say that like the last song.
I mean, but also because like we'd been
Volcano.
Yeah, probably we'd been desensitized to Brown Eyed Girl by then.
That's true. Yeah, the first time we heard that version of Brown Eyed Girl, we were incensed enough to start a podcast.
Which again, this is insane because neither of us are particularly like fans of Brown Eyed Girl.
No, I don't even like Van Morrison that much.
Yeah, I would probably say. Yeah, I guess probably since Chanson, I don't know if I've been as which also it makes sense that the last one would be Chanson and then one of the songs on this album. But it's been that long, I think, since I've been this pissed off at a song that Jimmy wrote. It's just like such a regression for him, a song like this.
I think we should flip the record and move to the next song because I don't have anything else to say about this.
Yeah, let's get the fuck away from this song. All right, so side 2, and we've moved away from Glenn Frey and we've moved into Indiana Jones.
Yeah, Harrison Ford is on this record for some reason.
Yeah, by the way, I forgot to look up the details for this, and I meant to for this podcast. But I just want to say, in addition to his appearance doing the bullwhip on this song, which is Desperation Samba in brackets Halloween in Tijuana, the other time that Harrison Ford is involved with Jimmy Buffett is that one of the canonical appearances of Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones is on like a video that Jimmy showed at his concerts, like during the intermission in the 90s.
Because you sent me that Jimmy's like gets in the cockpit and then Indiana Jones shows up and says, "Do you want me to help? I got this." And Jimmy says, "No thanks, man. I've seen how you fly a plane."
Yeah, that's what it is.
And it's just like,
I'm glad you remember the details of that.
It just kind of shocked me, to be honest.
It's just so weird that like one of the canonical Indiana Jones appearances in a fucking Jimmy Buffett promotional video.
Yeah, so this song features Harrison Ford on the bullwhip. He cracks it as part of the percussion of the song, and it sounds like complete shit. It really sounds like they got him in the studio and then literally just had him crack the whip in the studio a couple of times and then like barely tried to master it so it sounds good.
I don't like you would have to look at this because you have a physical album of this, unfortunately, to see if on the liner notes it says like bullwhip sound courtesy of like
let me go get my copy of it real quick,
because I'm sort of wondering whether they just took it from the movie.
Yeah, so folks, I was given a physical copy of this album for my birthday by previous guest of the show, Mayim. Thanks, Maya. Oh, hold on. Now that I have it in my hands, I'm noticing more weapons. First of all, his tie pin is a saber, and on the back, the woman has a revolver tucked into her waistband.
Jesus.
And also this pin, this like metal, it says "party" on it. OOTSK.
Order of
And
the
then it says
Sleepless
Order
Nights.
of the Sleepless Nights. Yeah. Anyway, so special thanks to
depresses
Harrison
me.
Ford for the whip cracks on Desperation Samba.
Okay, but it doesn't say like courtesy of some film company.
No, I think they got Harrison Ford in the studio and recorded him cracking the whips.
Okay, all right, interesting.
Oh,
Go on.
there's also a small dedication at the bottom for Steve Goodman.
Yeah.
It says this album is dedicated with fond memories to one of the finest humans who ever spent time on this planet, Steve Goodman. I regret that his stay was so short. I miss you.
Oh well, that's nice. I didn't know about the full epitaph on the album. I just knew it was dedicated.
Yeah, unfortunately, the album's not very good. So
yeah,
the boat on the back is also labeled OOTSK1.
He was really into this for like, I don't know, 9 months, and then he gave up that stick.
Yeah, he really liked this idea.
Desperation Samba. This is Buffett Jennings and Tim Schmidt, formerly of the Eagles and Poco, and his own solo career, and also as a touring member of the Coral Reefer Man. That's the writing team. I don't think Utley is credited on. I believe it's just Buffett, Jennings, Schmidt. Yes. So, how familiar are you with Mexican culture around the time of like late October, early November? Are you more aware of it than Jimmy? Because Jimmy is very clearly like having some cultural dissonance here.
There's a holiday that happens around that time period.
Yeah, Jimmy definitely does not mean Halloween. He definitely means Dia de los Muertos.
Yeah, he's talking about Day of the Dead, but he I guess thinks it's Halloween. I don't know. He's like, they got these crazy skeletons and shit. It's like, Jimmy, that's not what that is. That's
yeah. He's also like, he's got some geographical confusion in this album too, because he's in Tijuana, and he's already in Tijuana in the song when he's like, should I take this last step or turn myself around or follow my intuition into that border town? It's like, buddy, you're already in the border town, dude.
You're there.
You're there.
You're in Tijuana.
That being said, this song is entirely about going to the red light district and hooking up with a prostitute. That's what the Desperation Samba is. No, it's not a very good song. I don't like the Spanish in the choruses. I also think it's quite weird for this song to be very much about going to see a prostitute, and then the chorus being, I want to dance in Mexico. We do the Desperation Samba with our friends.
Yeah, I don't
like. Are
Kyle,
you saying the prostitutes are your friends? You're saying you're getting prostitutes with your friends, or are you fucking your friends in the red light district?
Kyle, there's another gentleman who was born on December the 25th who is good friends with prostitutes, and that's
you're talking about Isaac Newton, right?
What I was gonna say though is that yeah, I don't. The song sounds like shit.
Yeah, I think Jimmy must have been at the mixing board for this one too.
I think he must have been.
Now, I do have to say though, the bridge of the song, if you remember the bridge, it's completely disconnected from the rest of the song, right? First of all, there's like essentially verse, chorus, chorus, bridge, chorus. Like there's no more than like 2 verses, but the bridge is like just completely disconnected. It's just like, I hear the people singing that same old haunting tune. I drink because I know it's me against the moon. And because that's just literally like literal observation and emotion, I actually do like the bridge, and I think it's much better written than the rest of the song.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like, also like, obviously, I feel like this goes without saying, this is a very exoticized song.
Yes.
But it's not devoid of like interesting musical choices. It's just like so much of it is bad and rough that it's kind of hard to see the good parts of it, I think.
Yeah.
I don't think it's worth it. You're not missing out on Desperation Samba, Halloween, and Tijuana.
No, definitely not.
To be clear, listeners.
You're
not missing out.
Yeah, let's move on to If the Phone Doesn't Ring, It's Me.
The hit.
The hit.
I think I come down on the positive side on this song.
I think this is the strongest song on the album.
I think it's the other one that has like a really good chance of being
let
the
me
best song on
say
the album.
let me say this. I don't know if it's the strongest song on the album. I think it's lyrically the most mature song on the album, and that's what I've been missing from Jimmy in the last couple 80s albums.
This song feels very much like it would not have been out of place on Coconut Telegraph.
No, or even Somewhere Over China. Because it's a song about regret and moving on. And the thing I like about it is I think it's actually quite reflective, much like some of the stuff on Coconut Telegraph, but it's also pretty balanced between Jimmy and Jane's perspectives. Like, he's done some songs about his separation that are very much just like all about like what he sees. Like, this song actually does manage to say there is a reason why Jane is separated from me, and this is the reason. Like, I can understand and empathize with that, and that's pretty rare for a Jimmy song.
Sometimes Jimmy writes like a joke line and it just kind of works. If the phone doesn't ring, it's me is a good line.
Yeah.
Like, kind of unequivocally.
Yeah, it's a great, you know, because he likes doing wordplay, and I think that's
he
partly because like he used to do this all the time with Steve, who did a lot of wordplay, and Steve was always better at wordplay than Jimmy, just blanketly. But, like, this is good wordplay.
Jimmy's not untalented at wordplay. Like, when he gets it good, and this is a good one.
Yeah, there is a line that I think is a wild line to come from Jimmy, especially at this phase of his career, which is the line, "It's too bad we can't turn and live in the past," because it's just kind of antithesis to so much of Jimmy's kitschy stuff, which we know, like, through Coconut Telegraph, that he's, like, getting really into in 85.
There's also, it's antithetical to the kitschy stuff. It's really antithetical to like how strongly Jimmy relies on nostalgia.
Yeah.
You know, like it's a good song. It's a good damn song.
Yeah.
It's rare that Jimmy has a song that becomes a hit and is also like we think is like okay, they all got it right.
Yeah. How do we think about this song of all the songs being like the big hit on the country chart in the 80s?
I mean, honestly, I feel pretty good about that.
Yeah, I liked Love and Decline on the last album, but I do think this is a better song than Love and Decline, and I
agree.
Yeah, I don't think I could come up with something that I would think would have been a better hit on the country charts. Because the only other song that I think would come close to me thinking like, why wasn't this a bigger hit, was It's Midnight and I'm Not Famous Yet. That wasn't a country song, so it wouldn't be on the country charts.
No, this is like the best. This is the best song Jimmy's written in years, frankly. Like,
yeah, probably.
It's the first one where it's like everybody's on the run makes it feel like, oh, maybe we're gonna have good music this album, and then like so much of the rest of the album is trying to disavow of that notion. And this song is like, okay, no, Jimmy still has songwriting talents. He's not just completely lost it.
This is one of those times where I'm sitting here being like, you know, I do actually like. I am curious to see whether there are more songs of this quality that occur later on in his career surrounded by like completely inane bullshit, right?
Yeah.
Like, I do want to find hidden gems in his career.
We have found quite a few, I think, at this stage.
I want proof that Jimmy still has talents as a songwriter.
Yeah, I'll be surprised if we find something that was recorded in like 2003 that's like still quality, but like I won't be that surprised. Like,
we'll just Jimmy's be happy that it hadn't atrophied by then.
Yeah, literally. I don't know. Good song. Should we move on to the next one, to the title track?
We've got the title track next, which is another Buffett, Jennings, Utley, and Chapman track. Last Mango in Paris.
I think this song's actually kind of also okay.
You know, in comparison to some other songs on this album that I do like viciously dislike, I agree with you. At the same time, this feels like it's very indicative of how far Jimmy has fallen since White Sport Coat, because I think of this as analogous, in a bad way, to He Went to Paris.
It kind of is. Like, it's, this is a song about Tony Terracino, who ran Captain Tony's Saloon in Key West.
Yeah, he was a former bootlegger, gambler, New Jersey mafia goon, shrimper, charter boat captain, gun runner, and owner-operator of Captain Tony's.
Also, he was elected mayor of Key West in 1989.
And Jimmy was his campaign manager for one of the earlier campaigns that he was unsuccessful for in the 80s. He'd been running
so it's
like perennially in the 80s, and at least one of those Jimmy was his campaign manager for.
So this is like an interesting song because it's like this is the first time in forever that Jimmy has given us a song that is a character portrait that is centered in Key West.
Yes, I did notice that too. It's the first time since I Heard I Was in Town that we've had any song directly mentioned and set in Key West.
And that's like it's like weird because like I don't think the song is like especially good, but like it does kind of evoke some of those things that we liked about that era of Jimmy's music.
Yeah, it is a weird thing where so much of Jimmy is tied to Key West in such a way that you think Jimmy has done nothing but bad things to Key West, but when you actually do listen to Jimmy's music, there's something about whenever he deals with Key West itself in a song, the quality is higher. Just like as a general line, the quality on Key West songs is higher than the quality of non-Key West songs.
I mean, he genuinely loved that place, right?
Yeah.
And like part of like the tragedy of like I Heard I Was in Town is Jimmy sort of reckoning with the fact that like it's changed and it's changed because of him.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see him go back to this.
Yeah. So there is one major thing that I dislike about the song, which is the fact that Tony Terracino's life is pretty well documented, much like I'm blanking on his name, the guy from He Went to Paris. He Went to Paris is a damn good biographical song. Tony Terracino did pretty much nothing that is mentioned in this song. Maybe the damn good run on Wall Street, because it might refer to like betting on the stock market, but I think he was mainly like a racetrack gambler. He definitely wasn't in the Vietnam War. He was too old. He was born 1916. So Last Plane Out of Saigon, I don't know what he's talking about there. I don't have any, I didn't find any record of him going to Paris or to China.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like this one was not written with Tony in mind. It was like Jimmy wrote. I mean, obviously Last Mango in Paris, like as we established, it's a joke based on the erotic film Last Tango in Paris.
Yes.
And so like I think Jimmy wrote a lot of this and then he thought of Tony. You know,
this is true, but I dislike then that the choruses are so disconnected to the reality of the verses. I'm not saying there's not a place for that in music. People do it all the time. I just don't necessarily like it.
I've got a couple more things I want to talk about with this song. First of all, for some reason, the outro to this song quotes La Vie Dansante.
Yep.
Off of Riddles in the Sand.
And I dislike that.
I don't know why, and that kind of pissed me off.
Yep.
I didn't hate La Vie Dansante, but I do think it kind of pissed me off that it just shows up here for some reason. Now, secondly, I want to quote from a blog that I sent you earlier today. Listeners, I discovered an insane blog earlier today, which is a blog called The Brothers Buffett, which is somebody who went out on a project not too dissimilar from ours back in 2010. He went out to review all of Jimmy's albums, but he also decided he was going to review and break down every letter Warren Buffett sent to his investors over the course of this. This is an insane project. It's kind of a fun blog. I don't agree with everything he says about some of Jimmy's music. For example, he fucking hates Havana Daydreamin', the album, which is, you know, pretty easily my favorite of Jimmy's albums to this point. And he does quit out. He gives up doing the project after the next album, but he does make it to Last Mango in Paris, and he says a lot of interesting things about the song. When it finally comes around, it's a major departure from the rest. It is, if not head and shoulders, at the very least a head above every other song here. A good pop track leaves you wanting and fits the bill. Its courses are too short, but too jubilantly good to hear just once. He says that it's like it's my job off Coconut Telegraph, but then he goes on to say, and it's only when Last Mango was fading out did I realize why it stood out. Steel freaking drum. this is song 8 on Last Mango, but it's the first song to have steel drums on it. And that's the right way to describe the entirety of Last Mango. It's Riddles in the Sand with less steel drum, and somehow that's a bad thing. I don't agree with that last part he said necessarily,
Yeah,
but
because
but
there
I
is
think-
another song that does have some pretty prominent steel drums.
yeah, but like it does. It does have less steel drum on it than Riddles in the Sand. I don't know if that is a bad thing for this album. The point of order is that like we have not had like hardly any steel drums on this album to this point.
Yeah, this I did note that when I was listening to, I was like, oh, I think this is the first steel drum.
We'll talk about it later, obviously, in Steel Drum Watch. But the use of this instrumentation on this album is really weird, or not weird. It makes sense actually, which is the weird part. Anyway, that's all I have to say about Last Mango in Paris. I think the song fits into modes that I've liked from Jimmy before, and I think that makes me lighter on it than I should be, because I think it's not a very good song.
Yeah, I think this is like an incurious version of He Went to Paris. And that is largely built on the whole last plane out of Saigon thing, because that's all he says about it. And it's like, I mean, if you're going to write a song about Vietnam War vets, the year before was when Born in the USA was released. 3 years before this was when Billy Joel's Goodnight Saigon came out. We know Jimmy likes listening to Billy Joel. Sending the Old Man Home off of Volcano even had a little bit of this, and he just doesn't go any further with that. And I do feel like it's like the song is built essentially like it's like He Went to Paris, but you don't have to think about it and be reverent when it plays at the concert. You can still dance or whatever the fuck, right?
How about we move on from a song that we maybe feel a little complexly about to a song that just sucks?
So Jolly Monsing is our official second total bullcrap whimsical jimsicle. It features Jimmy's most racist singing since Volcano.
Yeah, this
And it sucks.
Ugh. This song is complete bullshit. It's extremely obnoxious when it's not being flat out annoying. It's being extremely objectionable.
It is 3 minutes and 15 seconds of my life wasted.
Yeah, I
In
want to
fact,
say
not
that,
even
like,
wasted, for the worse.
I want to say, I was somewhat of an apologist for Chanson pour le petit enfant off of Volcano.
You cannot possibly be an apologist for this song, can you?
I am not. I want to say the last verse where the dolphin saves Jollymon Singh and swims up into the stars is like, that happened and I was like, Jesus, okay, I get it. This is bullshit. What the fuck is this? Like there's a guy, he sings the Thoughtless Island, people love him because he sings, and then he gets attacked by pirates and he gets thrown overboard and the dolphin saves him from drowning and they swim up to live in the stars. We don't need to talk about anything else with this song. This thing sucks. It's got like some calypso shit. It's bad.
We're on to the final song of the album, which is Beyond the End, which is Buffett Jennings Chapman.
Yeah, this song features Roy Orbison.
Yeah.
Which is a weird pull. I didn't think Jimmy had a Roy Orbison in the back pocket.
Well, Roy Orbison is at a dearth in his career. He's going to, in a couple of years, will be his, a Black and White Night comeback before his untimely death about a year after that or two.
I think the song is extremely dull and boring, and I think the only thing that's remotely interesting about it is that Roy Orbison is on the song. But even so, if you listen to Roy's actual part where he's echoing the lyrics, it makes the song worse.
So there's two voices that are doing that. The first voice isn't Roy Orbison, obviously. That's a guy named Jonathan Edwards, who is listed among the backing vocals, but only Roy's given like special backing vocals. And if you're gonna have Roy Orbison, you give him fucking special credits, obviously.
You're just Roy Orbison.
But I was hearing those backing vocals. I was like, well, that's not Roy Orbison. That doesn't sound anything like Roy Orbison. And then we get to Roy Orbison. Like, oh, that's Roy Orbison. So, well, who the fuck is the other guy? So the other guy is Jonathan Edwards. I had a difficult time finding information for him. Wikipedia lists him as an American revivalist preacher, philosopher, and Congregationalist theologian who played a critical role in shaping the First Great Awakening. I knew that wasn't correct. So further research led to a country and folk singer, Jonathan Edwards, who in 1984 was acting on Broadway in the musical Pump Boys and Dinettes, which as far as I can tell might be like a sad rural off-brand version of Guys and Dolls. So this Jonathan Edwards seems to have been pushed into music by a friend named Wendy Waldman, who is famous for also singing backing vocals in this song, probably among other things. She's listed in the credits. So she probably got him involved in this song with Jimmy Buffett, and that's who the Jonathan Edwards is that we hear. But yeah, I don't have anything to say about this. It's just kind of there. I don't know if it's saying much of anything. It's kind of supposed to be like a spiritual song, but it's bad.
Yeah, I wrote down that this was an AHAG thing because like none of its lyrics inspire any thought in me. But the fact that like it has Roy Orbison on it is enough for me to think that probably Please Bypass This Heart is the actual AHAG for this week.
It could go either way, honestly.
It really could. I do want to note that this song was so boring that like the third or fourth time I was listening to it and I was trying to finalize my notes, I stopped paying attention to it because I noticed that Genius.com was advertising tickets as low as $90 to see Jimmy live. I don't think they can deliver on that promise.
I don't think they can.
I don't think so. He's been dead for almost 3 years. You can't. I don't, so if you want to sue Genius.com for false advertising,
I think what Genius.com is. I think what Genius.com is doing is saying that we have we have an exorcist who can rise it. We have the power of Jesus to raise him from the dead like Lazarus.
We will resurrect Jimmy Buffett for you, listener.
For the low price of $90. The Holy Ghost himself, Marvin Gardens, will come and inhabit the body of a person of your choice and give a personal concert of some of the worst music you've ever heard in your life.
Yeah, but so I wrote several lines about Genius advertising tickets as low as $90 to see Jimmy live instead of talking about the song because I can't think about it anymore. There's nothing to it.
Well, frankly, if you got bored of it, I think I think that also because I would probably put that because this song is straight up like a minute and a half longer than Please Bypass This Heart. And I think that would qualify it more for AHAG. Yeah, because it being a 5-minute song, you would think that you would have more to say about it than Roy Orbison's here. But Roy
Orbison's here. You can get tickets as low as $90 to see Jimmy live.
Hey, look, while you're at it, another $90 you can see Roy Orbison live too. Why not?
Hey, and Glenn Frey, maybe? Like...
I wouldn't pay that money.
Let's move along. Let's get off of this album. What are your general thoughts about Last Mango in Paris? How'd you feel about this album?
I think it's overall slightly worse than the last album, which only I think is I have a hard way of quantifying that, right? This album has 2 or 3 songs on this album that I definitely hate more than anything I heard on the last album.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. I think that like I rate
but it also has less songs that I think are like literally for me it's like If the Phone Doesn't Ring It's Me and like a little bit Everybody's on the Run, and that's it in terms of like songs that I think are good on this album.
Yeah, I mean like that's kind of my thinking is like I think I rate it a little bit higher than Riddles in the Sand on account of like Riddles in the Sand is like a solid showing of like 4 out of 10 efforts, and this song is this album has a couple of songs that are like I think a good amount better than anything off Riddles in the Sand. It also has a lot of songs that are a good amount worse, and that makes placing it hard. So like my first reaction was like, oh, there's songs I like better. It's better than Riddles in the Sand, and now I'm thinking about it. I'm like, I really don't know where I really don't know how I feel about this album, but it's not positive. This album did give me a migraine. So,
well, did last album give you a migraine?
No, it didn't. So I guess this album's worse than Riddles in the Sand.
Well, there's only really one way to know for certain whether it is better or worse, and that's to turn back the clock 25 and a half years to June 11th, 2000, where we head to our buddy Head Parrothead. It was somewhere past dark 30 as I went back to the head is one of the best lines in any song anywhere. I think that is an entirely forgettable line from the title track.
Yeah.
Because I had to look up what fucking song that line is from.
I remembered that the line was in the album. I just didn't remember what song it was on.
Yeah. Last Mango in Paris is a record with a few ups and downs, and until recently was slightly difficult to listen to. And he never elaborates on why it is until recently. So I don't know whether that's because of a personal opinion that he had, or whether that's because of something that occurred in the world at the time, in the June of 2000. I don't know. Oh, you mean like it had only just been released on CD? Maybe.
Yeah.
Actually, no. I think this might have been the first album. I think this might have been Jimmy's. No, it was Riddles in the Sand. I had mentioned this last time, I think. Riddles in the Sand was his first to come out on CD simultaneously as on vinyl. So this one is definitely on CD in 85.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, Last Mango in Paris is a record few ups and downs until recently was slightly difficult to listen to. It manages to maintain some of the sounds from Riddles in Everybody's on the Run, The Perfect Partner, and Please Bypass This Heart. I don't think Everybody's on the Run sounds anything like on Riddles. So, the latter also holding on to the main theme of the previous album. No elaboration there. The skating references in EKG in Please Bypass This Heart are a bit cheesy. Don't disagree. As is the sound of Harrison Ford's whip in Desperation Samba. We came down harsher on that. But they are novelties that don't ruin the songs by being there. They definitely do, at least in, well, okay. Those songs are forgettable at best to begin with. And if not, anyway, Frank and Lola is a nice comical romp about married life, and Gypsies in the Palace is a great anthem for fans of PHANS fans of Zydeco music. It doesn't sound like Zydeco to me. I don't know about
that.
You.
Doesn't sound like Zydeco at all.
No. Jolly Monsing is another song for a nighttime serenade, spelled wrong, to the kids, and Last Mango in Paris is as great a title track as One Particular Harbor is for that album. I really hate to say this, but I disagree. I think Last Mango in Paris is definitely a better song than One Particular Harbor. And I don't really like Last Mango in Paris. Score 4.5 of 5 Coronas.
He didn't give it 5.
No?
Damn. All right. Well, I have a couple of other things. First of all, I want to read the headline of this article that I found. It says, Jimmy Buffett's Last Mango is a yacht rock dream machine.
Who the fuck is this?
Well, this is not actually about this album. This is from May 9th of 2023. This is a boat builder named Scott Way talking about the construction of Jimmy's catamaran called the Last Mango.
I see. Okay.
So I read that and I was like, who the fuck is... I had the same thing where I said, who the fuck is that? And then I opened it up and I read for like 6 lines before I realized that they were talking about this boat and not the album. I failed to find a contemporary review for this this week. It's hard now that Jimmy's albums don't sell very well. But I have a couple. First of all, obviously, we talked a bit earlier about the Brothers Buffett review. He's not very positive on the album. He notes several things about it. Obviously, he says that it's a bad thing that there's less steel drums on this album. I disagree, but I do think this is maybe a worse album. He points out other highlights. He says everybody's on the run, and if the phone doesn't ring, it's me, which I think is accurate. He also points out that Jolly Monsing is, quote, embarrassing.
Yep, that's a good way of explaining it, a good way of describing it.
Yeah, and then I want to talk about this AllMusic review, which is definitely retrospective.
Is this our good friend William Ruhlman?
No, this is Johnny Loftus.
Johnny Loftus.
This is definitely retrospective because it mentions songs you know by heart and also starts by saying Jimmy scored big with his 1985 effort. So he talks about the hits and says, Jolly Monsing is a sort of island-tinged throwaway track that's probably pretty easy for a guy like Buffett to write. Nevertheless, it's as warm as the Gulf Stream waters, and it's sure to put a smile on the face of fans. I think that is a value-neutral, true statement. There are fans of Jimmy who probably like that. Let's see here. Last Mango in Paris unveiled some of his trademarks, but unlike some of those experiences where storytelling tended to gobble up the song, Frank and Lola focused on its funny tale over a jaunty harmonica and acoustic guitar arrangement that's right out of the American Songbook. I don't know. That sentence kind of fell apart. He says there's some filler here, as there is on most of his album, but Last Mango in Paris' host of high points make it essential for anyone enamored of Buffett's live shows, or even the casual fan looking to expand beyond songs you know by heart. I don't think that that's accurate. That's 3 out of 5 stars from AllMusic. So I don't think very highly about that. I don't know what people were thinking about with this, but I do think that like we're kind of approaching the period where like part of the problem with doing a project like this and trying to get in on like critical like reception of Jimmy is that Jimmy's albums don't do so well anymore. And because his albums don't do so well, critics don't pay as much attention to him. So the only people who do pay attention to Jimmy at this point are rabid fans.
Yeah, the Parrotheads.
Yeah, which is how Jimmy gets this like.
Yeah, I had a contemporary review from the Coconut Telegraph.
What does that one say?
No, I didn't write anything about it. I stopped reading it halfway through because I thought there's no reason, because we've been through this before. Like, we are firm believers that if you are a rabid fan of something, your opinion is invalid. critical research. It's not a reliable source without other things to keep it in check.
Yeah, this is maniac behavior.
And there is nothing to keep it in check. There are so many reasons I listed at the top of this podcast when I was talking about this very first issue that prove that Parrothead culture is a fucking cult built around Jimmy Buffett.
Yeah.
And
it's
you can't use it to gain a robust critical understanding of what it was like to listen to that record at the time and what reception was. All you have is the charts, unfortunately.
Yeah. And it's like this thing where it's like, you have the people who are obviously going to like it because they like all of Jimmy's records. And then you don't hear what other people thought of it, largely because a lot of these albums are boring. And so they probably didn't think very much of it at all.
Yeah, we're talking about we're living in a time now where you can get paid money for specifically doing things that are antithetical to your own mental health and largely useless to the continuation of humanity, like recording a Jimmy Buffett podcast. There is no incentive in 1985 for anybody to be reviewing this album unless you yourself are a huge fucking fan of Jimmy Buffett. And so no company is saying, hey, this album that hit like 59 on the pop charts, go write a review of that. That's not happening anymore.
No, I have to imagine pretty much anybody who thought about, like, let's see if this is interesting, probably turns the album off after they get to please bypass this hard.
I fully believe that people turned on this album and turned it off 30 seconds into the opening song just because they're like, Jimmy Buffett's not supposed to sound like he's doing contemporary stuff, because that's what everybody's on the run is.
Should we do some segments?
I'll start with boat drinks.
Boat drinks. I think I got boat drink fever. Beatrice, I drink 6 more boat drinks. 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 Somebody sound the alarm.
We're pretty light, this album. We only have 2 mentions of alcohol, and they come on the exact same song, which is that we have a beer mention and a wine mention, so normal Jimmy stuff, on Gypsies in the Palace. Yeah. And that's it. There is an honorable mention because he does specifically mention all this liquor and that the good stuff's in his closet also on Gypsies in the Palace, but not a direct reference by name to any alcohol. So the running total, it's 16 beer, 16 wine, 10 rum, 7 cocktails containing 1 Bloody Mary, 1 margarita, 1 Havana, 2 daiquiris, 1 Purple Passion, 1 Cajun Martini, 5 whiskeys, 2 gins, 2 tequilas, and 1 scotch. How's the Steel Drum Watch this week?
He went to Jimmy, looking for steel drums bothering him so. Well, steel drum killed his lady, left him with only one question.
Which way do I steer for my
steel drums?
The Steel Drum Watch is really interesting this week. There's only, I think, 2 songs on this album that have steel drums actually on them, which are Last Mango in Paris and Jolly Mon Sing. Not a great showing. I think one of the songs is significantly better than the other one, but it's a low bar to clear. It's interesting because there is conga on this album, but it's really sparse.
Yeah, there is a good amount of exoticism that's not necessarily steel drum.
It's more interesting, I think, actually, to talk about the exoticism really comes in
Desperation Samba.
It's got a lot of this sort of sort of calypso almost, like a lot of Mexican instrumentation.
Yeah, there's a lot of nylon guitar on that song.
A lot of nylon guitar. But
of course the bullwhip is very much used in an exotica way right there. In the same way you would do bird calls or monkey calls or something to simulate jungle sounds.
But I kind of think that there's other things that are more interesting with this album. This album's much more of a country album than the last one. It's leaning much more into those sorts of noises. This is most obvious, I think, on Gypsies in the Palace, which has you've got a fiddle going pretty strongly in the background. There's just a lot of weird stuff going on with this album.
But no steel guitar. Despite the fact that we're doing more country, just like last album, no steel guitar.
Jimmy fucking hates me. And I think it's weird because the instrumentation largely makes sense. he's doing a lot of sort of like contemporary country rock stuff on the A side, and so it doesn't have hardly any exotica instrumentation at all, which is like sensical, which is makes it weird because Jimmy doesn't normally think that hard about that stuff. I don't rate it super highly.
I think this is a step down, even though there are songs on here that I find stronger than anything on the last album. I think this is a step down from the last album in terms of quality, because I think the last album is just more dull listenable, whereas there are songs on this album that I would have to stop and skip.
I will say I listened to the last album several times, even though it was like pretty boring, and I didn't skip basically any song on that album the whole time. This album I listened to like 7 or 8 times in preparation for this, and there are songs I started to skip by the end of it.
God, I only listened to this album twice.
I was like, I don't want to listen to John Lemon sing again. Yeah.
Well, that's sometimes the way it goes. Next week, we're going to have 13 supposedly unskippable songs. Because it's the compilation album, Songs You Know by Heart, which is his biggest album ever.
A big, important album.
Huge, important album. And it only covers up until 1979 in his career, even though it's 1985. They're just like, fuck the 80s, fuck Planet 80s. They want off.
Planet 80s. Get that shit out of here.
It's too contemporary for the Jimmy we want. So we'll be talking about that next week. The week after that, we will be off. And then the week after that, April 3rd, we will be back with to our regularly scheduled programming with Floridays from 1986. So that's what the near future looks like for the podcast. But for now, it's time to say goodbye. So I've been Kyle.
I've been Tom.
And this has been Discography Wasting Away 2026. See you guys next week. Play us out, Jimmy.
Wasting away again, away again. Wasting away again, away again. Wasting away again, away again. And Margaritaville. It's my own downfall.